You're tuned into No Good Music.
And here are your hosts, Rob and...
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, this is Rob, and I am doing my first solo podcast. I've done solo videos before. Due to some circumstances, Jeremy not feeling well, Matt did the last couple ones with me. Actually, we have two more coming out, interview, and also Bob Dylan movie review with Matt. But I thought I'd do this. This is the sort of a part 2 of the show 81. Trying to do a shorter podcast and not like 2-hour podcasts. So we're gonna start with Give It a Listen, and I have a band called the Cynz. They are on Gem Records, and I'm going to play the song, part of a song now, and I'll come back and talk about it.
Live your lie and I'll live mine. We'll pretend from time to time. No heartbreak time. No heartbreak time. Be my friend and I'll be yours. Never again will our paths cross that heartbreak line. That heartbreak line. How to my love. How to my love. How to my love. How to my love. It's heartbreak time. Tonight I'll dream in restless sleep. The heart knows what it wants, it seems. No heartbreak time. No heartbreak
Okay.
time.
What you heard was the Cynz, and it was Heartbreak Time. And, they say rock and roll is dead, but it is not. Gem Records released this new single on February 28th. This is from their press release. The Full Throttle rock band formed around the songwriting talents of Cindy Dawson. So that's where they get the name The Cynz, and it's Cynz. And they are following up on a critically well-received album in 2024. Their album Little Miss Lost captured the attention of some radio stations as Album of the Year. And when I first heard the song a couple weeks ago, I noticed that the song sounded a little bit like Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. But I'm also hearing a little bit of Chrissie Hynde in there from the Pretenders, the voice. And then I read the press release a little bit more, as this is what the press release said. The single is reminiscent of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. It is irresistible in every way, from the strong feminine lead vocals, harmonies, earworms, and the relatable subject matter about relationship struggles. The new single will be part of the new album to be released in the fall, and it brings us past Cindy's pre-adult life when she was on her own, trying to stay safe in risky environments. As always, the Cynz are a dynamic band live. Cindy gives a powerful performance and has a raw emotional stage presence along with the band's edgy, strong vibe. And Henry Seitz is known as a guitar virtuoso, and he so cleverly put a Chuck Berry vibe in the song. And Cindy's lead vocals sparkle. The other band members are Dave U-Hall, get it? Bass, Pat Carpenter on drums. Now, my friend Kurt Ryle of the Gripweeds, I interviewed him, I think last month. He produced, sang backup vocals, and he mixed the song at his studio, House of Vibes. So thank you once again, Maureen at Gem Records, for giving us permission to play the song and hopefully turn our listeners onto another great band. So I'm going to take a short break, and I'm going to come back with some music news.
Well, I got news for you.
Okay, I have some music news. Now, I wanted to start out by mentioning two music people we lost within the last week or so. And first one was David Johansen, a.k.a. Buster Poindexter. He passed away. And even though it's sad and he had his mark on music history, I honestly was not a big fan of the New York Dolls or his solo career. I just did not get into him. And I understand he was a nice person. A lot of other musicians have posted photos with him and nice stuff about him. So, but someone I admired and loved who passed away was Joey Moland from Badfinger. Now, he was the last remaining member of Badfinger, and he was such a great person. Matt and I interviewed him back in January 2021. And if you haven't heard the interview, go listen to it. He had a great, funny story about people mistaking him for Paul McCartney. He told us this story simply because I think I noticed as we talked to him, I don't think it was in the questions, that he resembled Paul McCartney. So rest in peace, Joey. And maybe one day we'll do a podcast on Badfinger. You know, such a great band, but, you know, some tragedy, horrible tragedy in the beginning. Basically, I think ended the band. So, happier news. Oh, wait, this is not good news. I'm sure you heard Paul Simon is going on tour.
For the love of God!
That's right. He was on SNL, the 50th anniversary special. Not the music special, but he was awful. I don't know. I don't know what to say, you know. He sounded awful. I can't imagine going to see him, you know, and I love Paul McCartney. I love Sir Paul, and, you know, Matt and I do. But, you know, I don't even know if I'd go see Paul McCartney anymore because his voice is not good. You know, he is in his 80s. I think Paul's probably in his 80s. You know, they just don't sound great anymore, and you got to face it. And I know it's what they love to do, but I don't know, put out an instrumental album or something. I don't know.
What's your case? What's your case against me if you don't even have the facts right?
I'm sorry. Wow. Paul was here. Paul Simon. Wow. Sorry, Paul. I didn't know he was listening. So I'm going to laugh at my own jokes, obviously. You know, I don't like doing things solo. In fact, I'm going to talk about it on our next segment, my next segment. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You know, doing things solo. I like to be around friends. I like to talk music, you know, with Matt and the two Jeremys. I had another person lined up, and he got sick. We were all at the same autograph show, but I don't know, knock on wood, I didn't get sick. And I'm here. So next I want to talk about Amanda Seyfried. She's been in the news. Now we all know she's an actress, and I love Amanda. But we also know she can sing a little because of the Mamma Mia movies. But did you know that she sounds exactly like Joni Mitchell? I'm serious. If you did not see this, she was on Jimmy Fallon, March 4th. She played the lap dulcimer, and she sang the song California by Joni Mitchell. Now, if you don't know the song, go listen to Joni Mitchell first, California. It's got some odd arrangements, like vocal arrangements in this song. Joni was not like, you know, verse, chorus, verse. I mean, she was kind of, but her voice fluctuated so much. And Amanda sounds just like her. Like, and I knew she could sing, but this is incredible. Now, Cameron Crowe, who did Singles and Almost Famous, he's been working on a biopic for years now with Joni Mitchell, supposedly. I read this somewhere. People are saying that Amanda was auditioning she was auditioning for maybe the lead role. It's rumored that Meryl Streep is to play Joni later in life, but I think they're still looking for a younger Joni. So maybe Amanda will get the part. Other news, the iconic 1972 concert film Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii has been remastered for 4K IMAX. And Pink Floyd fans are in for a treat. The 1972 concert film Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii has been digitally remastered and is coming to cinemas this spring. And yeah, the next segment I'll be talking about a movie that I saw recently that I loved, and this is coming to IMAX, so you can enjoy it in gloriously rendered 4K massive vision. Be accompanied by a live album, which will be released on CD, digital audio, vinyl, and for the first time in Dolby Atmos. Don't know what that is. I should have looked it up. I love Pink Floyd. Anything new? It's not going to be anything new, but you know, I'd get this. I'd get this on CD or vinyl. Now I have a lot of vinyl albums. I have to tell you. I mean, you know, this room that we record in. I'm up to almost 600, but I've gone back to CDs. I have a lot of CDs too, and you know, they are obviously less expensive these days. You know, new vinyl remastered, you know, you're gonna pay like $30-$40 for an album. CD you might pay 20. So the film has been renamed Pink Floyd at Pompeii, and it's MCMLXXII, which is 1972 for this release. It's been remastered, we already said that, from the original 35mm footage, which enhanced audio, newly mixed by Steven Wilson, and he is from the English rock band Porcupine Tree. Now, this concert predates the release of the band's defining album, The Dark Side of the Moon, and it was the first live concert to take place in the empty ruins of the Roman amphitheater in Pompeii. Featured hits like Echoes, A Saucer Full of Secrets, and One of These Days.
One of these days.
Oh, sorry, not that. That was Ralph Cramden. No, the Pink Floyd song. Now, the film also includes behind-the-scenes footage of the band beginning work on The Dark Side of the Moon. The colors have been enhanced, with every frame being meticulously reviewed and repaired, promising a natural and vivid experience with minimal grain adjustments. And the audio has received the same attention to detail. Steven Wilson's new 5.1 and Dolby Atmos mix aims to preserve the authenticity, you know I'm bad with words, and spirit of the original while enhancing its depth and clarity. I think we just repeated ourselves here. Now, let's see. I got a couple more things here. I wanted to talk about AI in the music industry. This is from music-news.com from February 27th, 2025. Brian May fears it's too late to stop AI from destroying the music industry. So, Sir Brian May fears for the music industry as the UK government plans to make changes to AI copyright laws. The Queen guitarist is among those protesting the proposed amendment that would see artists have to opt out of having their work mined by AI algorithms. The We Will Rock You hitmaker believes the damage is already done, and he's hit at monstrously arrogant billionaire owners of artificial intelligence and social media. Now, the 77-year-old music legend starkly warned that if they are not stopped in their tracks, it will become impossible for artists to be able to afford to make music. Speaking to the Daily Mail as part of their campaign against the Labour government's proposed AI law changes, May said, "My fear is that it's already too late. This theft has already been performed and is unstoppable. Like so many incursions that the monstrously arrogant billionaire owners, we already said that, of AI and social media are making into our lives. The future is already forever changed." May backed the campaign after more than 1,000 artists, including Kate Bush, Damon Albarn, Annie Lennox released a silent album in protest. The track listing for Is This What We Want spells out the British government must not legalize music theft to benefit AI companies. So, silent album. Is this just an album of nothing? You know, you put the album on, it's, I don't know, you can protest. That's kind of silly to me. That's like a waste of vinyl, I think. So we're going to end with some good news. Chapel Roan, who we know, her Hot to Go music video outfit has sold for $88,900 at an auction to raise funds for the victims of the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, items belonging to the likes of David Grohl, Sabrina Carpenter, Paramore's Hayley Williams, and more have raised an incredible sum of money for those impacted by the devastation. The Give a Frock auctions, sponsored by Give a Los Angeles and Julian's auctions, concluded on Tuesday. That's February 25th, with all profits raised going to organizations providing support to those in need, including One Voice, Altadena Girls, Friends Indeed, and Pasadena Humane Society. Foo Fighters and Nirvana legend, he's a legend now, Dave Grohl, he signed an Epiphone DG335 Pelham Blue Signature model electric guitar, and that sold for $50,800. The Beastie Boys Rare personalized Adidas 2004 to the Five Boroughs tour tracksuits, they brought in $38,100. Sabrina Carpenter's polka dot outfit from the Taste video went for $22,225. I cannot confirm or deny that I bought that. Hayley Williams, This Is Why music video outfit sold for $16,250, despite only having an estimate of $800. Shirley Manson's polka dot dress, another one, polka dot dress from Garbage's I Think I'm Paranoid music video made $31,750. Charlie XCX's 2024 Sweat Tour bridal inspired outfit raised $22,225. So almost 80 items were sold, including memorabilia owned by the likes of Billie Eilish, Cher, Post Malone, Olivia Rodrigo, and Ozzy Osbourne. So that's the music news I have. There was probably a couple other things that came up recently, but maybe I'll save those. When I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about this Led Zeppelin documentary that I actually saw. And I'll be right back. Hey everybody, I'm back. So I'm going to talk about the Led Zeppelin documentary, Becoming Led Zeppelin. It was released February 7th. It's 121 minutes. And it was directed by Bernard McMahon. It charts the formation of the early years of Led Zeppelin. Now, the film is an independent production made with full cooperation of the band and represents the first time Led Zeppelin have agreed to participate in a biographical documentary. A work in progress was screened at the 78th Venice Film Festival in 2021 to a 10-minute standing ovation. 10 minutes, man. So the plot is Becoming Led Zeppelin traces the journeys of Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, John Bonham, and Robert Plant through their childhoods in post-war Britain, the music scene of the 1960s. And we find out some interesting things maybe I knew, but Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones were session musicians early on. So in the documentary, we see Shirley Bassey performing the theme to Goldfinger. And Jimmy and John both played on that song, John Paul Jones. Now, the story is told exclusively by the band members, with the late John Bonham represented by previously unheard audio interviews. And I do remember reading something where John Bonham's grandson, which would be his father, would be Jason Bonham, thanked the director for providing or finding this interview, which was pretty much a lost interview with John Bonham, because he said he had never heard his grandfather's voice before. So wow. Now the film features full performances, never before seen footage of the band's early US and British concerts, and unseen material from the band's personal archives. Now this was researched and written by Bernard McMahon and screenwriter and producer Alison McGordy. And according to Jimmy Page, he turned down a lot of pretty miserable pitches over the years to make a documentary about Led Zeppelin. However, he received a deeply researched proposal focusing almost exclusively on the music and chronicling the band's birth in 1968 and its early rise. The film was developed on a storyboard and presented to the band members in a leather-bound book. And Page commented, "When we first met, we were probably a little nervous of each other, but the conduit was the storyboard." Adding, "And I thought they've really got it. They really understand what it was about." John Paul Jones gave his blessing, saying the time was right for us to tell our story for the first time in our own words, and that the time was right for the film to be made. Robert Plant praised McMahon's work on American Epic, the Emmy-nominated 2017 documentary that chronicled the early American roots music recordings of the 1920s, and cited it as a reason for agreeing to participate in the film. Seeing Will Shade, so many other important early American musicians brought to life on the big screen in American Epic inspired me to contribute to a very interesting and exciting story. Seeing Will Shade. That was the name of this film, Seeing Will Shade. So as of February 23rd, 2025, Becoming Led Zeppelin had grossed $8.9 million worldwide, including $7.4 million in the United States. Personally, I thought the film was very well done, very respectful. Unlike some music biopics or documentaries you see, and they try to drudge out the bad stuff. And the thing with this movie is it only covers the first two albums and goes up to the early 1970s, like 1970 basically, before the death of John Bonham. Spoiler alert. The movie, is over 2 hours, but it kind of ends abruptly. Like, I didn't know how far they were going to go with the movie. I hope they continue with the story, because like I said, I only covered the first two albums. They didn't get into many of the trials and tribulations bands have later on in their careers. And the band basically, or did end when John Bonham died. They didn't think they could just continue on. In September 1980, and he was only 32 years old. I remember being in high school, freshman, and hearing them announce in the morning, that John Bonham had died. Most bands would have continued somehow, but they felt they couldn't. And Led Zeppelin is such a favorite band of mine. It's one of the first rock bands I really got into, besides like Kiss. And it's hard to explain unless you grew up and this was the first rock and roll band you heard that just blew you away. Like some people, it's the Beatles. I have no disrespect to Greta Van Fleet, but I can't listen to them. And I always say, why eat store brand cookies when you can afford Oreos? So talking about, doing things solo like this podcast, this was one of probably 4 movies that I ever saw alone, usually with someone. And working from home, I kind of set my own schedule. It was a Friday, 11 o'clock in the morning. Nobody was in the theater but me, so it was kind of nice. And I tried to get someone else to go with me, but they have a job, and tried to get their boss to see if he could go in late. Didn't work out. So, but love the movie. I'd like to see it again. And this was 2 music movies in 2 weeks, because I think a week later, maybe it was 2 weeks later, Matt and I saw A Complete Unknown. So I just wanted to talk about that movie. I didn't want to do a whole thing because and it's probably better that I did this podcast solo, because, nobody saw the movie with me, so they wouldn't know what I was talking about. I'm going to take a little break again, And then we're going to do a last segment, which is music, some music biographies, some books. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back with some music biographies. I like to do this once a month. I have a couple here. Let's see. The first one is completely new. The second one, I think, is a reissue. And the third one, it's going to be a while before that comes out. So anyway. So the first one is Lallapalooza, the uncensored story of alternatives rock's wildest festival by Bernard Beinstock, author, and Tom Beaujour, the author. They're both authors. Hardcover, $29.76. Comes out March 25th, and it's 432 pages. It's got a foreword by Kim Thale of Soundgarden. The definitive no holds barred oral history of 1990s alt rock festival, Lallapalooza, told by the musicians, roadies, and industry insiders who lived it. From the New York Times bestselling authors of Nothing But a Good Time, the 80s hard rock explosion. That was their last book. So in this book, hundreds of new interviews with artists, tour founders, festival organizers, promoters, publicists, sideshow freaks, stage crews, record label execs, reporters, roadies, and even more. This chronicles the tour's pioneering 1991 to 97 run. So it only ran about 6-7 years. In the process, alternative rock's rise, as well as the reverberations that led to a massive shift in the music industry and the culture at large. It includes interviews with Perry Farrell of Jane's Addiction, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nine Inch Nails, Sonic Youth, Tool, Smashing Pumpkins, Ice-T, Rage Against the Machine, basically anybody and everybody that played there. So this was originally conceived by Perry Farrell as a farewell tour for Jane's Addiction. So check that out. Next book is Bright Lights, Dark Shadows. Bright Lights, Dark Shadows. The definitive biography of Abba by Carl Magnus Palm. Paperback, $20, March 18th, 2025. It's 704 pages. That's a lot of pages. It's the definitive biography of pop sensations Abba, revised and fully updated, exploding onto the international music scene after winning Eurovision with Waterloo in 1974. Abba have since become one of the most famous pop groups in the world. Bright Lights, Dark Shadows is the definitive account of the rise and fall of the Swedish pop music titans. So this new edition of the best-selling book has been extensively updated to include details of Abba Voyage, the phenomenal ninth and final album, the amazing concert experience in London, and the ongoing personal lives of Bjorn. I'm not going to say their full names. Benny, Annie, and Agnetha. And what I could find was that the book was originally published in 2001. Now the next one, this one doesn't come out for a while, but I got an email the other day from Sir Paul, and very excited about this one. It's the story of The Band on the Run by Paul McCartney, and edited and introduction by Ted Wilmer. So this is hardcover, $40, 496 pages. Doesn't come out till November 4th. I'd like to get this one. Sir Paul's new book is a reminder that the Beatles were not the only band Paul was in. He was also in the band The Bangles. No, I'm kidding. No, he was in Skid Row. No, okay. He was in Wings. He was in Wings, folks. Detailing the second most famous band Paul McCartney ever headlined, the in-depth account from the man himself tells the complete story of Wings through interviews, behind-the-scenes content, photography, and so much more. So if you're a fan of McCartney, Sir Paul, I like to call him, Matt and I do, this is essential reading. And it tells the astonishing, almost improbable story of Paul McCartney and his newly formed band from 1971 through its dissolution barely a decade later. It's drawn from over 500,000 words of interviews with McCartney, key players, family members. Wings poignantly recounts their recounts of what went on. Band members, now with a half-century's wisdom, the story of a man and musician navigating the aftermath of the Beatles' breakup, and soon joined by his wife, American photographer Linda McCartney, on keyboard and vocals, drummer Denny Sewell, and guitarist Denny Lane, among many others. Organized around 9 Wings albums, the narrative follows the adventurous band as they survive a robbery on the streets of Nigeria, appear unannounced at various university halls, tour in a sheared-off double-decker bus with their children, all while producing some of the most enduring music of the decade, with 150 black and white and color photographs, many previously unseen. This is a landmark work of soaring originality. And then back in 2022, Matt and I interviewed guitarist Lawrence Joubert. He was a member of Wings towards the end of the band. And he was on one of my favorite Wings albums, which is the last album, Back to the Egg.
That wasn't one of our better albums. We'd come into it thinking it was going to be quite good, that one.
Well, thank you, Paul, for that. Thank you. So that does it for this podcast, this solo podcast. I thank you for listening. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. It is better with another person here. I can, feed my jokes to them and work on my comedy bit. So if you're a musician, singer, you're in a band, you have some newer recordings, singles, email them to us, and we'll see if, we'll give it a listen, see if we like it, and we'll get back to you. And you're going to email No Good Music, that's KNOW, goodmusicpodcast@gmail.com. I'm the one that answers, so Rob. And so that does it for the show, and usually we do this together, but you know how it ends. Turn off the TV and turn up the music. You've been listening to No Good Music. Today's show was produced by Rob J. Lilly and recorded live and unedited at the Did You Say 7 Studios in Washington, New Jersey. You can find No Good Music on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and almost anywhere you listen to podcasts. Intro and exit music by the band 99%.